Hi, everybody. This is Charlene O'Hanlon, Managing Editor at DevOps.com and DevOps TV. We are here today at the DevOps Enterprise Summit in Las Vegas. And with me today are two very, very smart people. We've got, to my left is Rob England, who is the IT skeptic and Managing Director at Teal Unicorn. And to his left is Dr. Cherry Vu, who is CEO of Teal Unicorn. And it's an interesting conversation we're going to be having considering their backgrounds. Dr. Vu's background is in organizational management and change. And of course, Rob England is all about the IT and IT service management. So two legs of the three-legged DevOps stool, so to speak. So would love to talk to you guys a little bit about IT service management and DevOps and kind of how the two are kind of intersecting and where you see that happening. And how can it help companies as they go down their DevOps journey?
Shall I start?
Yeah.
I think it's interesting that I was involved early on in the whole tribalism of that, and I have to admit I was in my skeptical world, I was throwing rocks at the whole DevOps thing in the early day and contributing to the tribalism that happened between DevOps and Agile and traditional ITSM, and there was that whole ding-dong ITIL is dead thing, and sort of open warfare almost between the communities. And what we've seen in just the latest year or so is much more of a coming together and a convergence of those two groups, and they're finally starting to see each other's worlds and bring some value to each other. And so that synergy was the topic of the name of our presentation, the crossing of the streams from Ghostbusters, you know,
right.
Don't cross the streams.
Don't cross the streams.
Yeah, yeah. So, but when they do cross, right, you know, and so that's what's happening where DevOps is bringing a whole new lens and new value to the service management, to the traditional service management world, and the traditional service management people are starting to embrace complex theory and some of the ideas of Agile. And Agile service management is the thing that we teach, and the Certified Agile Service Manager, and so those ideas are flowing in both directions, aren't they?
I think the differences between the DevOps and the old ways of IT service management is just more about the culture, the way people actually work rather than technical thing. I mean, and of course they focus differently. DevOps tend to focus on building, all about build. We build things faster and better and higher quality. But the IT service management is more about not only they focus much less than about the how to build, but they take a bigger picture. Sure. It's all about how to taking care of the baby after it's born. So it's a long life of the IT, not only the built one. So
that's an interesting perspective, and it's you kind of hit the nail on the head when we're talking about culture, the different ways people work.
Yeah.
It seems to me that DevOps is trying to organize people in a way that they, you know, kind of have to work together, or it's just not going to be successful. Yeah. So, but it seems to be such an easy thing to think about, but very, very difficult to execute.
Yes.
So, what are some of the things that possibly you've seen in the industry, and what are some of the things that are really holding organizations back with that?
I think as Rob often says, that the old habit died hard. So people have a long years of experience by doing the old ways, and now they start thinking, they understand that they need to change, otherwise, you know, do it or die. But then it's very difficult for them to kind of kill themselves, because it's a part of them, part of the workers or people who involved in the work, that's the way we do around here. So how can we change it? Everyone understands that we must change, but they get to the point that it's too hard for them to cut or to switch themselves to the new person,
It
new
hurts.
people. That hurts. Yeah.
It's one of the words that I use most in sort of guiding clients is patience. You know, we're so used to changing software at the push of a button or deploying processes in months, but people and culture change at a human rate, and that human rate is accelerating. We're learning to change faster, and we're learning we have to change faster, but that doesn't mean it's fast. There's still a very finite human rate of change, and so trying to coach management, you know, I've had one manager say to me, it's been weeks now and they still ... and I'm like, weeks? You know, you don't change the way people think and behave in weeks. You don't change it in months. It takes years. And getting that idea across that this is going to take years. And you need that kind of patience and the transformation. One of the biggest issues we've run into with a whole series of clients is they just lose that patience. They go for a year with a big hiss and a roar and they go, oh, not enough has changed. It's like, well, a lot has changed. So another favourite saying is, don't measure yourself against perfect because you'll always be disappointed. Measure yourself against yesterday and last year. And so always be backward looking when you measure progress because you'll always fall way, way short of perfect. And you'll always feel like you're still a million miles away from where you're sailing to. But if you look back where you were 3 months or 12 months ago, you've come a long, long way and you've grown a lot.
Yeah, I think the problem with leadership as well, that they often think that, okay, we don't need to change. We know everything. We understand everything. But then when they are forced to change, then they say like, no, just train our staff. I don't need to. I don't want to. And they just refuse. You know,
It's interesting that you point that out. Is if they're being forced to change, it's not going to happen. So people need to want to change.
Yeah.
That's part of the process. But one of the things I know you had mentioned was the fact that humans change at a human rate. So, but everybody changes at a different pace. Nobody is 6 months from now I'm going to change. So at what point do you recognize that maybe it's just not working? Maybe it's just not gonna happen.
Sometimes we have to differentiate between the person and the person as a leader. So, like for example, I was so upset with one of my clients because they just refused to change. But as I said to to that person's staff, I said, I'm still very upset about how they behave. They said, that person said, look, you have to look at that. Don't look at my boss as a person. Just look at how she actually changed in the way she work. And it's actually she changed. But just, the old habit die hard. That's why it's still, sometimes they step back and then do the same thing. But if we look at the way they work and they actually change, they actually do it better. So we may have to think it that way. So
the personality or the actual interpersonal and behavioural aspects take much longer.
Right.
But people can adapt some of the basics of their working to the new ways more quickly.
I'm sorry.
Patience.
I was going to ask, is it because it's such an iterative approach to change that's why they're not recognizing that change has taken place? They're just not seeing it with themselves?
You think because it's incremental, it sort of creeps up on them?
Right.
I think that's probably true. That we do so many small things that we lose sight of the, as I say, if you don't, until you look back.
Interesting. So, we've talked about culture as a big part of DevOps, but it really doesn't seem like there's been as much emphasis on DevOps or on culture as there has been on tools and processes, and possibly that's because tools are what sell. Tools are like the wow, gimme, and culture. People just automatically assume that culture is going to follow, I imagine. But do you think that now companies are taking a step back and realizing that maybe we need to spend a little bit of money on this culture thing too?
I think so. Right. Yeah.
Definitely.
Because like as we work with clients for a year, for example, then we look at the way they work. It's just changed, and the productivity is much more higher. But still, people don't change that much. That's what we think, and there's some organization where they focus on culture. Things seem to stick much more stronger.
I think this conference and Gene and all his cohorts and the work that's gone on in the body of knowledge that's at the center of all this, they've been very good at drawing out the strength of the cultural aspects. But as a DevOps community as a whole, there are other tribes who are very focused on the technology, and I think they're the ones coming to the realization that it isn't the panacea, and that technology solves nothing really without the cultural stuff to go around it. It's interesting. 3 years ago, in 2016, what's that? 2 years ago, David Habishin was a client of mine from New Zealand who came and presented at this conference, and the DevOps TV interview he did for that was really interesting, because he talked about how he was 9 months in when he was here talking, and they'd done almost nothing with technology. It was all transforming how people work and how they behave, and they'd come a very long way, and they were starting to hit the point where they couldn't go any further without automation to give them the power. But I think it's the other way around. I think you can achieve so much without technology, and then technology takes you further. But if you try and start with the tech,
it doesn't.
Technology solves nothing.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. That makes a lot of, because at the end of the day, you can just you can throw all kinds of technology at a problem, but you've got to get to the root, and 99% of the time it's going to be a human problem.
If you just throw, because they had that at actually the same organization, that a team went off and started doing the CD thing and building all this wonderful automation, and they were not well connected with their client, which was the developers. And the general response from the developers was, sure, we want automation, but not that automation. They'd lost that whole thing of getting the product customer involved. So, just firing tech at people is not a solution at all.
Interesting.
And Rob upset so many people because he said the tech is a solve problems. All the tech people get angry.
It's the solved problem. But it's true. Like, there's that mathematical concept of closed and open problems. So maths says that a closed problem is one that you may not have solved yet, but you can prove there is a solution. Maths is like that, right? And an open problem is one where you can show that it's not even proven that there is a solution that you're ever going to find. And so tech is a closed problem. It's doable. You've just got to find the right people and the answers, and somewhere in the manual is the answer, and you can make this thing work. But humans are an open problem. You may never get them to behave the way you're trying to go to.
So when we first have a meeting with our new clients, normally they ask us what kind of solutions do you bring us? I said, we don't have any solution. We don't, and they just can't get it. They never
We're not
get
here
it.
with push button answers.
They just said, no, you are a consultant, you should have a solution for us. Otherwise, why we have to invite you to work with us? I said, well, so you have solutions. We are just here to help you to find it. We don't have, we don't have any solutions.
Yeah, and that does heads in. They're so used to the kids in suits turning up saying, "Here is my hammer. Where are your nails?" To come in and say, anybody who can forecast how you will be working in a year's time or 2 years' time, and thinks they can tell you, you should show them the door, because hundreds or thousands of people are a complex system. Nobody can predict how they will be working. No one can predict what the future operating model will be. Or they can predict, but no one can know what the future operating model will be. Where we actually land is essentially random. And so, having that conversation with them just does their heads in. No, I won't tell you what sequence of rituals we're going to perform over the next 3 months and what it's going to cost and what your value outcome and deliverable. I don't know.
So even when we start working, they still think that we hide something, that we have a solution, but we
You
just
really
don't
got it.
show, you know. It's just
funny.
maybe, but it takes time for them to realize. And when we have some result, I said, look, from the beginning, I said that I have no solutions, and you see how you go to your solution. You actually find the treasure that you hide somewhere in this organization.
You were the one
and
hiding
you are the
it.
one to hide it. So now you found it. So that's great. And I told you, I'm just being honest that I don't have any solutions.
Well, I think it's definitely something that's much needed in the DevOps space. Culture is one of those things that it doesn't just happen overnight. So and I'm sure that it starts with one little thread and you start to unravel it, and eventually
I like that.
it all comes together or comes apart, I guess. So, but Rob and Dr. Vu, thank you both for taking the time and talking with me today. Change is hard. Change is hard.
True.
So I'm sure there will be many more conversations about this. So thanks again.
Thank
Thank
you
you.
so much.